This is Nicole Trujillo. So I am the chair of the Summon Working Group, and it is my great pleasure to bring to you today's on integration and interoperability with other products in Summon. So our first presentation is going to be on integrating a local art museum collection into Summon results, which will be given by Steve Brown, who's the eResources Access Manager of the University of Colorado Boulder.
So I'm going to talk about integrating the CU Campus Art Museum's collection into our Summon results display. So we did this because our art and architecture librarian came to us and asked if it was possible. And he had these 3 goals in mind when he requested this service. He wanted to see increased visibility of the art collections that we have. He was hoping for one search as a true one-stop shop for information, and we're not there yet since the Campus Natural History Museum's information is difficult to work with Summon. We also have some archives collections and the resources that aren't indexed, so we're one step closer on that goal. And number 3 ties in a bit with number 1, but we also wanted to have the discovery of locally accessible objects for study to make it easier for our students and staff to be able to find those objects. So the systems involved were Summon, obviously, and then the Art Museum is using the Argos Museum Collections Management software that's provided by Lucidia. So I'm going to go down the process that we went through next. It began with a lot of internal discussions. If your library is like ours, which I'm sure it is, something like this has to go through multiple committees, working groups, up to the management group level before it got approval. Everybody had very positive thoughts on this idea, so nobody was fighting this at all. Next was to reach out to the Art Museum, which there was already some discussion with the Art Museum manager, but since the Art Museum staff was going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, since it's their data, we had to make sure that they were on board with this process. So they were going to be the ones exporting the data, doing a little bit of the massaging of the data, and sending it off to Summon support. So we really needed their buy-in and their help with this project. So it felt like, in many respects, I was more of a middleman in this process than really making it happen. The next step was to open tickets with both Summon and Argos. With Summon support, so we could figure out exactly how to do this since we've never done this before, and with Argos support for a side project for integration that I'll show you at the end. So we were starting our thoughts on how to do this from this Knowledge Center article on including your library's institutional repository. So this gave us some guidance as we were preparing to reach out to Summon. This article outlines your options as either an OAI PMH transfer or an FTP transfer. Because of the Argos system limitations, we had to go with the FTP option. So the next step in the process was doing a test load of about 500 records, just to make sure that nothing looked disastrous, everything looked okay. There were some issues with it, but we decided that it would be better to get the complete collection of about 9,000 records in before we really started to do intensive testing and trying to improve things. So the next step was getting that 9,000 records that Summon support did some massaging of the data to make sure that it fit into Summon properly. We were using an Excel. They had requested that we do an XML format, and that was causing the issues for us. So we ended up with an Excel spreadsheet format that was being FTP'd to them, so they had to do some manipulation on their end to make it work. And then number 6 in the process was just doing a lot of testing. The testing was done by the e-resources team here at the library, the art and architecture librarian, and the art museum manager. So we had some different perspectives on how we were searching it, how we were testing it. So we were testing title searches, author searches, using the facets, searching for University of Colorado Art Museum, searching by the object ID codes that came over from Argos. And the results were mixed, but they were encouraging. And then the last step here was improvement based on the test results. So next I'm going to go through a few slides of some of the issues that we ran into and improvements that we were able to make. We weren't able to fix all of the issues, but a lot of them fixed. So the first issue was a big one, and this one was on the Argos side, where we had linking issues where each individual record in Summon was linking back to the front page of the Art Museum portal. So this was really not helping our users. Argos support team was able to correct this error, so we were able to move on from that one, but that would have probably shut down the project right there if we couldn't have gotten that one fixed. Next, we had, since we were working from an Excel spreadsheet format, when the data got over to Summon support, they found that our unique identifiers that we're using, which was that object ID, was being rounded. So this record's object ID of 79.796 was showing up in Summon as 80. So we had to take care of make the data work. Next issue, which was a limitation of the metadata that we were working with, is that the entire collection has content type of art. The Art Museum's collection has books, sculptures, paintings, a variety of content types, but due to the lack of granularity that we were receiving, everything is in our system as just art. Next, the sort by date function is never going to work for us. This display here is results sorted by date newest. If you sort by date oldest, it's the exact same display. And you can see it goes from 20th century, 1966 to no date, 18th century to 1937. It's another limitation of the metadata that we're getting from the Art Museum. So it would take a lot of work in 9,000 records to make this workable. So that would require more staff to make that ever work. Next, I will admit that I let this one slip through the cracks until I was preparing for this presentation, but we had noticed originally that the pages showing up in our Summon results were actually the dimensions of the artwork. So in this example of a coin, you can see that our pages are 0.74 inches and 0.01 pounds. So this is still showing up, and after this webinar, I'll see if I can get that updated at all. But for now, we have some very strange page numbering for our art resources. Another issue that Summon support was able to fix for us was that we had 532 results that didn't have titles. So they were able to update these as title unknown. So we have a lot of records that are just title unknown because that was another limitation of the metadata to work with. Another issue when we first started, the artists were not mapping to the author field. So this is another one that the Summon support team was awesome. They corrected so much of our metadata, so a big thank you to them on this. So they were able to map the artists to the author field so we could do searching. Another thing that they had done for us was creating a new library location as CU Art Museum, so that makes it really easy to limit to just this collection. This was another special feature that they had created for us. Number 9, so some of our art museum collection had images online and others did not. So we were able to have the ones that did not have any online images have the links relabeled as Czech Art Museum for availability instead of available online to help reduce confusion for our users. And then the last one, which was a pretty simple one, was just adding some extra tags to our database recommender so you could find that collection and jump over to the Art Museum portal. So you could get into the front page of the Art Museum or wanted to see what local resources we have. If you want to play around with our collection in your instance of Summon, you can do a search for DVID:ZVYXZ. And then make sure that you click the add results beyond your library's collection, just to make sure, because if you don't include that, then you'll get 0 results unless you happen to activate our Art Museum collection in your instance of Summon. So at the beginning, I also mentioned one other integration that we had done. So this was on the Argos side, where the Art Museum was already working on this before we really knew what was going on, but they were able to add a summon search within their Art Museum portal. So you could click from their collection over to the libraries, and then it would provide a link to the search that was done in Argos, and you could see the library results for the search that you had just done. That was probably limited to just something that if your campus art museum also uses Argos, it's something that you can do. I don't know if other systems can handle that, but it was a nice little added touch that they had done. And I guess questions will be at the end after James gets to present. So I'm going to pass this off to James. Thanks.
Okay, well, I think then that's all we have for today. Thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us. If you have further questions or just want to reach out to the group, I provided the emails of the presenters on the screen. And thank you again for coming.